Hello everyone, this is Shamsi and welcome to the main industry guide. This has taken me so long to make as I tore down and rebuilt my industry multiple times over some streams and off streams and re-recorded this video 11 times, but I'm finally at a place where I'm comfortable in sharing my setup with the community in guide format here. So let's get into it, but before we do, I want to quickly announce a giveaway of a ship. We are giving away this little ship here in celebration of hitting 225 YouTube subs within 2 weeks. That's incredible, and I simply want to thank everyone that's liked a video, watched a video, commented on a video, subscribed or not. The support has been unbelievable, so thank you so much. And I also qualified 2 weeks after erratically starting streaming for Twitch affiliate. I am now a Twitch affiliate, which is crazy to think about, really. It's such a short span of time. So for everyone hanging out with me on streams as I meander around, thank you. And to celebrate, we are giving away this little ship here. If I hop in the pilot seat, I've made it much neater and nicer, and I've replaced the space engines with Tech 2 ones to give it a bit more performance. And the end result of all that is on this character, which has no piloting skills, as you can see. If I hop onto the pilot's chair, Demacia and Arcadio's script is telling me I can lift about, if I do a vertical takeoff, wow, that's a lot. That's 1.167 tons. So normally I would say perhaps 600 tons, maybe a little more, with no piloting skills at all. This little ship can lift off from Alioth or the Sanctuary Moon with 650, maybe even up to 700 tons of cargo. And so we are giving that away. Stay tuned. We'll be announcing the details of that at the end of this video. So I'll let you know how to enter that competition for the ship giveaway in celebration. So let's get straight into the industry guide. And there are three main things that I need to cover. The first is going to be talking through this flowchart and how I've done things a little differently for the sake of clarity, for creation and comprehension to be easier than how it would have been if I had made it normally, the way I have been thus far. I also need to talk about, segueing out of that, how to decide how many industry units of each type that you need earlier on in the production chain, and then talking a little bit about the difference between sustained drain and burst drain on industry. And then we're going to be talking about the setup itself, me walking you through step by step what is happening here in the core of my industry, which is basically what I've just walked through there. So let's get straight into it, and we'll start with a flowchart. Now, I tried making this normally, but it appeared as something of a modern art piece, as if I'd taken a brush, dipped it into paint, and threw a bunch of arrow shapes at a canvas and made a metaphor about the different directions in which we're all being pulled on a daily basis as the entire canvas was covered with arrows. And I could have submitted it to a modern art gallery, I'm sure, or I hope, but instead I decided to make things nice and simple and clear. So the two main differences between this setup and the ones in which I would ordinarily have made is I have only put, with the exception of our main metalwork battery here, one example of each item that we're making. So each refiner, each smelter, glass furnace or chemical factory only has one example written in, but we could have multiple of each one. And again, we'll talk about how to calculate that drain and your demand upon your industry in a little bit. But I have made it so that, with the exception of this, everything only has one example here, so as to not overclutter the page. The other thing I did is so I've written in here, for instance, you see, the components that this electronics industry, for instance, needs coming in. So each one of these is a box. Each one of these is a resource box. We have split our resources into individual boxes. We'll talk about that in a moment. But for instance, this glass furnace here needs a connection to each of these boxes. And say This one here needs a connection to these three: alpha, calcium reinforced copper, and basic connector. So instead of drawing 3 arrows coming into here and cutting across and intersecting everything and basically going splat on the page with a whole bunch of arrows, I've written down the names of each container that this unit needs to be connected to. I hope that's sufficiently clear. So basically, see what the unit is set to maintain, and that'll tell you what resources it needs to be connected to. And we have up to 7 links coming into each industry unit, so we generally have way more than enough to feed from individual boxes all of our industry. The exception to that is the metalworks here, which is why we have this combined metal box, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. The other thing I want to talk about here are these towers. Now, I spent ages experimenting between efficiency, using as few containers and territory units as possible, and scalability, having the ability to add as many links to each resource as you want. And in the end, I opted for scalability over efficiency. And I think I'm going to talk about why that's useful here. Now, this isn't new. As soon as I finished building this, basically, I saw a video from another YouTuber. His name was Sagacious. I'd encourage you to check him out. There's some great content there. Very useful information. And he did this too. And I've seen it around. This is nothing new, but it's simply a process of taking a base container. So the start of this is we have individual containers for everything we're making here in the early stages, and for the most part also in the late stages as well. So all our tier 3s, tier 4s, tier 2s here, tier 1 ingots have their own boxes here. And as you can see, I needed extra coal and iron links, and so I added a transfer unit and plunked another container on top. Each time we do that, we buy 9 links, because a link is used from the original box for a transfer unit, and then that unit itself can also have another transfer unit, creating a daisy chain. And so, for instance, this little example setup here with Alpha has a total of 27 links available in it. The other thing to consider here is the rate at which a transfer unit can move products. So are the 9 units that this container is linked to draining too much iron for this transfer unit, or Alpha, sorry, for the transfer unit to be able to keep up with? And so for iron here, you see that we can move 100 liters of it every 10 seconds. So that's generally way more than enough. And for our Alpha here, again, it's 100 liters every 10 seconds. My suggestion is don't overcomplicate it. The entire headache saving element of this for me was not thinking about it, not worrying about it. It won't affect your efficiency all that much. It will a little bit from time to time here and there, but suppose something can support 8 units rather than 9. It'll just slow down the efficiency a little bit further on down the production line. The main benefit of this for me, other than having as many links as I want, assuming I can feed the resources into them, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, is simply not thinking about it. One of the main headaches for me in building industry was calculating ahead of time how many units I had to link everything to, how many links I had available. And even though that's perfectly possible, it was just a little too much work for me to enjoy playing a game rather than doing, actual work. So all I do now is link away willy-nilly without a care in the world, and when I hit the limit of the container's links, I cut the last link I used, or whatever is simple and easy for me to find, put a transfer unit on, put down another container, and then link it back to the one I just got, and then continue linking at will. The other thing to think about here is you don't want to maintain too much of the resource in containers going down the production chain. Because, for instance, here I have 2,500 stainless steel sitting here doing nothing, but I'm currently out of stainless steel. I need to go mining. So my main industry doesn't have stainless steel. And so if you have, say, 9 units connected to this box, and this box is out of steel, and all the rest of your steel are above it, those 9 industry units aren't going to be able to function. So to make things less clogged up and to maintain the throughput of your industry, I'd suggest not maintaining too much further up the tower. So again, you take a transfer unit and you connect it to the original container, and you put another container on top to buy 9 more links. And we do that for everything, for ingots, for plastics, for alloys, and for glass. So everything has its own individual box here, polycalcite, polycarbonate, and polysulfide plastic here. And then I scale up the links as I need to, and I don't even think about how many links I'll need. I'll just keep linking away, and as I need more links, I will add more links with transfer units and containers. The place where thought comes into it is in making sure you can feed those links with components and alloys or whatever. That's based on your industry's drains, and we'll talk about that right now, actually. Let's go and use a territory scanner as an example. So again, in this setup, you can add whatever modules you want into this. This is a base from which you can make anything you want. So as an example here, by the way, I don't make these for money anymore. I make some other things, but if you wanted to, you can add a territory scanner module here. And I've also got a warp drive module as another example here. So how do you calculate how much of each product you need created earlier on in the production chain? My approach is to simply work backwards from the end product going down into the main product. So let's take territory scanners here as an example. So we go to dual.sh, and let's say I want to make 2 territory scanners every 26 hours or 27 hours or however long they take to make. I set the quantity in here, I scroll all the way down to the end, and I work backwards. So I do 2 crafts every 26 hours. So I can now ignore this and move on to the next stage, which is reinforced frames. Now I know off the top of my head, the production time for the reinforced frame is 4 or 5 hours or something like that. So I know within 26 hours, if I have one metalworker set to maintain this, I am able to meet my demand. The reason I don't just go down at the start of the process and work up is because I want to make sure that I have components being made in time. So if I just look at the raw resource need and make sure I'm making enough alloys and ingots to meet the demand, I don't factor in how long it takes, for instance, to make the uncommon electronics or the uncommon power systems, which is quite a long time. So I need to go down step by step and make sure I have enough units making each part of the production of a territory scanner in sufficient quantities to meet my desired goal, which is to make 2 every 26 hours. So we basically break it down to an hourly need per product. And I know that the ore scanner and the reinforced frames are about 5 hours each. And so in a 26-hour period, I'm able to make 2. Next comes the electronics and the power systems. Now, the basic electronics are quite easy to meet. They are made in very large quantities. So let's go down to our electronics facility here. And I can see that I make 3 of them every 3 minutes. And if I want to be very precise about it, I know that there are 23 minutes in an hour. So an hour is 60 minutes. And so there's 23 minutes in that hour. And I'm making 3 of these 20 times in an hour. So multiply 3 by 20, I know that I'm making 60 electronics per hour. Now, let's go back to dual.sh, and I know that I need 376 electronics to make 2 territory scanners. So I can see, I don't even need to do the numbers, but perhaps I can for my spreadsheet purposes. I can take 376 and divide that by 27, which is how long it takes to make a territory scanner. 13.9, so 14 electronics per hour is my constant sustained drain on electronics in order to be able to produce 2 territory scanners for a day. The difficulty comes in things like the power systems. So I need 1,250 uncommon power systems to make 2 territory scanners, and I want to make 2 territory scanners every 26 hours. So let's open a power system production here. Again, I will walk through the setup here. I want to use this as an example for now. So I know that I make if this was running. So this is actually base, so it's good to show. I would be making one every 4 minutes, but for me it's one every 3 minutes because of my talents and my industrialist. But let's take the base figure as an example. So in 60 minutes, which is an hour, there are 15 4-minute crafts. And oh wait, no, I don't make. Yeah, the 15 per hour sounds about right. I'm sorry, I don't make more than that per hour of my industrialist. So 15 is what I make per hour per industry unit. So if I take 1,250, which was the amount it takes to make 2 territory scanners, and I want to make them every 27 hours, I see that I have a need for about 46 uncommon power systems to be made. Now what that means to me is I'm going to put 3 or 4 electronics facilities here to make uncommon power systems, because my hourly need for uncommon power systems is 46.2, and I'm making 15 uncommon power systems per hour per industry unit. So I put 3 or 4 down. I'm going to go with 3 because I don't particularly care about hitting the craft exactly on cooldown. I can wait another hour or so, whatever, for the extra little bit of uncommon power systems to be made. But basically you follow that same process of calculating your hourly need all the way down. Make sure you're making. So let's take our carbon pure as an example here. We need about 12,000 carbon to make 2 territory scanners. So 12,000 divided by 27 hours, we need 444.5-ish carbon being produced per hour. I am going to add more tier 1 refiners here, but this is fine for now. Whereas the carbon, here's a carbon. So this is what we need per hour, and we're meeting that within 3 minutes. So we're making 331 liters every 3 minutes. So long as we have the ore to feed the process, we have more than enough carbon being met just with 1 refiner. So again, you would start from the top, work all the way down, resource by resource, making sure you have enough of it being made per hour. So the other thing to talk about, let's say you want your industry to make the examples here, the territory scanner and the warp drive module. And let's say, for instance, you want to also feed your warp cell facility. So that draws resources from here, although I'm completely out of resources. I need to go mining. But I'm only out of tier 1, so that's really easy to get. So let's say I calculate the hourly need of this facility here, which is actually really easy for me to do because I'm crafting every 62 minutes. So it is an hour anyway. I don't need to do any maths. I just take off territory scanner here, put in warp cell into dual.sh. This doesn't take into account any talents or anything, so it's just base. I know I'm producing 5 of them per hour. I want to be producing 10 of them per hour. I will be doubling up the supply. And then I don't really particularly need to think about the earlier on production chain, because I'll simply be recreating the warp cell facility, the same one from my guide, and just plonking another version of it down here. So I'm focusing over from here on down. Am I making in my main production facility enough Agli glass per hour to feed everything I want? Or am I making enough Alpha to feed everything I want? So I'll be making 10 of these every hour. So my hourly need of alloys, glass and plastic and ingots is this. And then I will calculate the hourly need of the territory scanner, set up to make 2 or 3 a day. And I will set up the warp drive hourly need here. This is the warp drive module here. And so I would calculate everything that I need on a regular basis, hour by hour, constantly being made. The other thing to think about is burst supply and demand. So let's say you're not creating engines for profit. So what am I making here? I'm making, let's say you don't want to be selling containers for profit. You want to simply make some whenever you need it. I needed 10 more, so I just set some to be made over a day or so. the components here, basic hydraulics, basic components, basic reinforced frame times 2, I don't need to maintain an hourly supply of these resources because I'm not making containers all the time, every hour. So what I want to do is, once I've calculated my base drain on my industry, I want to also calculate stockpile creation. So over here, I have my hydraulics, and I maintain a supply of 5,000 hydraulics. And I think also 5,000 uncommon hydraulics. We'll talk about that in a moment. And when I want to make containers, this is ready. I just have the supply to take from it. The alternative to this is to have extra industry. So if I say I was making a whole bunch of Tech 2 engines, and for that I needed uncommon injectors and uncommon burners. So I'm very slowly now building up a supply of about 5,000 of each of those. And so if I want to make a bunch of engines, I'll just set 10 to be crafted. And I'm not selling those engines for money, so I don't need them to be made constantly all the time. And so I only need the stockpile to be ready for when I do want it from time to time. So the alternative is to set up burst production, like I have here for magnets right now. I needed more magnets to be made, so I put down more units to build more magnets with. And so you could set out, more metalwork factories here to make more, pipes or screws or whatever else you might need, or set down extra electronics facilities to make components here for, containers or whatever else you want to make. And so suddenly meet the excess demand by plunking down extra industry units to meet it in a burst format. What I prefer to do is meet that demand with a trickle production. So I have, when I have the resources, so I have 1,000 uncommon injectors being maintained. I want 5,000 of these maintained, thank you. And so this one unit here, over the course of, say, a week or 2 weeks, will meet that demand by basically slowly trickling in the resource that I'm trying to stockpile into the stockpiling container. So instead of having a constant supply of burst resources ready to be made as you need them, you slowly, in trickle form over time, build up a supply. So when you do want to make 10 Tech 2 engines, you have the resources ready. And when you've made them, they'll all be used. And then very slowly over the next week or two, the stock will be replenished. So when you calculate your constant drain, the things you are making all the time for money or personal use or whatever, also factor in things like injectors or fixations or processors, things that you don't need constantly, but you want to build a stockpile for, so when you do need them, they're there, and when they're used, they will slowly replenish over time. So that is basically us talking through how to scale up links infinitely and how to calculate what production you'll need earlier on. So for everything you're making on an hourly basis, make sure it's being met in terms of production per hour earlier on in the process, and then also build extra to feed the little bits and pieces here and there, like processors, like fixations, like injectors, like basic and uncommon burners, so that you can also build up a stockpile. Right. Let's walk through this setup here. The basis of all industry is ingots and alloy glass and plastic production. So we have tier 1, each going into their individual containers, which can be scaled up with territory units and containers as you need. We have tier 2, each going into an individual container. And we have tier 3, each going into an individual container. And then over here, we've got our tier 1 alloys, glass and plastic being made. Tier 2 alloys, glass and plastic being made. So, advanced glass and calcium reinforced copper and polycalcite plastic. And then over here, we have our tier 3s and 4s being made. So we have polysulfide plastic here, and actively reinforced glass. And all you do is make sure that your tier 1s are connected to the ore intake for that relevant thing. So what do I have here random? I have quartz here, and the quartz is connected to the thing that's making silicon. And then you would connect each of these resource making items into only exactly what they need. Now I'm going to set up another process of separating out gases and so on and byproducts. That's completely unnecessary. What you would want to do in order to avoid doing that is, so your chemical industries, for instance, also need gas, as do your glass industries. So I needed silicon, calcium, and sodium for these, and those boxes have the oxygen I need already in them. And say I needed, let's go for an example here. Yeah, I have carbon being made here, and all this needs a connection to is a carbon box, because the carbon box has the pure carbon, and then where's the carbon? And it has the hydrogen in it as well. And so you would go down and connect these units to exactly what they need. Slight mistake here because I'd replaced that unit. So you would go down and you would make sure that everything is connected to exactly what it needs. So this thing here, making Kuag alloy, needs silver that it gets from silver core, needs copper that it takes from copper core, and needs catalyst that it takes from the catalyst relay box. Also, I have to connect each of the output boxes of metals. So for glass, plastic, metals, so glass, plastic, and alloys, all tier 3 and tier 4 output boxes need to also be connected to a transfer unit that draws their catalyst 3 or 4 that they are making. I have one here for catalyst 3 and one here for catalyst 4, and takes the catalyst out into a catalyst relay box that is then connected back to the original components making those things. You do need to seed the catalyst to start the craft going, but once it's going, it'll start to consume the catalyst that it itself produces from crafting, so it sustains itself with the help of a transfer unit, pulling the catalyst out of its output box, putting it into another box that then serves as an input for the original industry unit. And then so this is, you get some idea of what the links would have looked like if I put the arrows on the flowchart. Then we have, just in a little self-contained loop, we have two chemical factories maintaining our fuel, nitron fuel and whatever fuel you want to make for Kurgan. I'm using Kurgan X4 because I have lots of malachite. And then I have another little self-contained loop to make glowy honeycomb and normal honeycomb, and also make scrap and stuff. And then for the sake of electronics, let's get rid of the link tool so everything is clear. Ignore all the doubling up and tripling up of things. It's all very clearly laid out here. We have the start of the process, which is our alpha going into the basic component, and alpha calcium reinforced copper going into the uncommon component box. These each go to their own containers. Everything does except for electronics and processors here. And then we have connectors, and we also need advanced connectors for a warp cell facility if you don't have a a warp drive facility. So if you don't have one of those, you don't need one of these. And then we have our components feeding into the next tier of production for electronics, which is to maintain actual electronics, and then processors. And then finally we have power systems being made. And again, I've clearly outlined what each unit needs as an input into it for you, written out here. The next thing is our fixations, basic injectors, basic burners and stuff. This is part of what I was referring to earlier as trickle production, slowly build up a stockpile over time. These are all output here. And then we have our base metal workers making our screws, our pipes, our hydraulics. You can add tier 2 as well. So let me just show you. Because everything is modular, all the supplies are separated out and we can scale our links as many times as we want. It really is no bother at all for us to use another link from our steel box and a link from our stainless steel box to start making tier 2 screws as well and build up a supply of those. And not only screws, we can do hydraulics, and we can do, you know, burners. I mean, I think pipes are over here. Yeah, we can do pipes as well. So remember, just connect everything to what it needs. This only needs silicon, so it's connected to silicon. This only needs silicon and duralumin, so it's only connected to silicon and duralumin. And if I run out of links for silicon and duralumin as I'm building, I simply plonk another transfer unit up and then plonk another container on top. And then comes our main metalwork battery here. This is what we use to set the calibration of our end products that are being made from our assemblers. So because each industry unit only has 7 links available going into it, and as you can see here, we've subscribed to all 7. I must have selected something extra here. Normally 6 of these are used. We need to be able to feed every kind of alloy except for the electronics alloys into these main battery of metal workers that make our containers, our combustion chambers, our frames and things like that. But if we do that, we would basically take up all of their links only with metals, and they need a bunch of other stuff like electronics to make robotic arms and screws and pipes and components and connectors to make magnets and all sorts of different things. So what we've done here is we've invested 7 transfer units. So here, when you see, you know, doubled up here, we've invested 7 transfer units to take 2,500 of each metal resource that obviously some are being used and not being replenished because I'm out of ore, but this should normally be around I don't know why this is higher, but 2,500 of each alloy is being held in this container here, which is called the combined metal box. And then all I need to do is use one of the 7 incoming links into these metal workers to feed them with all of the metal they need. So in order to go around the 7 link problem, we create a box called the combined metal box, which is depicted here, and that feeds into all of our main assembler relay, and then that feeds into metalwork output, which feeds directly into our main assembler line to make. So for instance, if I want to make a large container, I set this to make as many reinforced frames as I want. I've set it to maintain 10, and then I go to the assembler and set it to make the container. And as that metal worker makes the frames, this will start building. But then the build time of this is much longer than the build time of 2 frames, so the frames will be built much quicker. So I go here, let's say I want to make a basic Tech 1 engine, so atmospheric engine large. What am I doing? I'm sorry, everyone. Right, so let's say I want to make atmospheric engine large. There we go. I can see that I need basic combustion chamber large and basic reinforced frame large. So I would set one of these to make the large frame and one of these to make the basic combustion chamber large here. And it has a connection to pipes, and it has a connection to the steel box from the combined metal. And so I set over here what I need to be made from our assemblers, and then I set the assemblers to be built. The other thing that needs to be here is an electronics unit to make, you know, our I set it to make advanced electronics temporarily, to make our you know, core unit systems for our you know, dynamic cores and static cores and so on. And it also can make power transformers for our glasswork industries. They require, I think, 1 or something of these. So you could build that here. That also feeds straight into the metalwork output box, which then feeds into all of our assemblers that can then draw upon those resources to make whatever it is that we need. Then that's it, basically, for the core of the industry. Then I have 2 modules here as an example. So the warp drive module, you need 3 glass furnaces, so getting supplies from your alloys, glass and plastic, to make capsules. You have antimatter advanced, antimatter uncommon, and antimatter basic capsule. Those all feed into 4 electronics units here that are all set to maintain advanced antimatter core units. They also need a bunch of other stuff that I've laid out up here. And then that fits into core units, chambers, and frames box. And then you have one metal worker making advanced ionic chamber. Where have I got that? Here. Yeah, advanced ionic chamber. And then you use your main production line to make advanced reinforced frame L. I've got a separate one here, but I don't have one laid out in my demonstration. So you can just use one of your main battery to make it. It only needs steel and Inconel, and it has both of those from the combined metal box. And so you have the frame going into the main box here, and then the capsules, the core units, and the advanced ionic chamber L being output into this box, and then feeds into the one making the warp drive every day. And then over here I have the magnet production as well. You need 1 basic, 1 uncommon, and 2 advanced magnets to make 1 advanced ionic chamber L every 24 hours. And then you have the territory scanner. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, for instance the connectors that are being fed into from our main production line as well. So this isn't purely self-contained here. You do need uncommon connectors and stuff coming in as well for the warp drive, up here. Yeah, uncommon connectors and stuff. And then for the territory scanner, it's very simple. You have everything you need is already being made. The only thing I would say watch out for is make sure that the metalwork that's maintaining the reinforced frame and the industry, electronics industry making the ore scanner are connected to the base lower level of your supply chain. Because if you remember, I said only set each of these territory units to maintain 1,000 going up, so as to not waste too many resources. But the ore scanner and the uncommon reinforced frame XL require 2,401 liters of polycalcite plastic and then 2,401 liters of stainless steel. So you want to make sure they get enough of that. If you connect it to the ones above, you need to make sure they have at least 2,401 in them for these to draw upon. And then these make one of those every 4 hours for the frame and every 5 hours for the scanner. And then that feeds into its own box, and then that feeds into the assemblers. I think I am making one here because I was short one for a new mining base. Yeah, and then these draw upon the uncommon power system. We've already talked about trying to figure out how many uncommon power systems you need. So you need maybe 2 more of these here, or maybe even a 4th one. Again, just feed them the raw resources here, set them to maintain, and output into the same box. And that way you can scale up as much as you want. So you connect the extra large assemblers to your components box, to your power processing box, and then where the ore and scanner go. And then they will start pooping out territory scanners for you every 27 hours. Now, I didn't set out an exact count of what you need for each unit, simply because it's all modular. It depends on what you need, what you're trying to make with this. So I've made a rough guide here of what you should be aiming for. This might seem daunting, and yeah, I had more than one account, but most of this I made with my original account without any help. And then for pretty much the rest of the build-up process of all this, my industrialist character had level 1 and 2 skills, so I was saving 3% or 6% here and there. So I built this mostly at base costs. So if you do have an industrialist character, or if you do invest time training your industrialist, training your main character as an industrialist to some extent, you can make all of this more efficient. But although this is daunting, it's achievable with a few hours every day of dedicated play, mining, selling, building stuff to sell, buying more components, building more industry units. So setting 20 frames to be made, 20 mobile frames, and then setting what am I building here? It's probably electronics industries. And I needed some more because I want to make more warp cell production, so I simply set 20 more to be made. made 20 arms, made 20 frames, and then these are all being maintained already anyway. And then yeah, it started making me industry units. There's in 15 minutes I'll have the 20th one made. They only take 32 minutes to be made each. And then that roughly is it. I hope I didn't miss anything. Let's go up to the Throne of Enlightenment and have a look through the setup here. So again, ore, alloys, glass and plastic, electronics, metalworks, and then your main metalwork feeding into your assemblers. You need 1 electronics units, and then over there, over the character's shoulder, is our main line of assemblers. This is the core of your production, from which you can make, wings, engines, adjusters, thrusters, boosters, whatever you want. And then I've got here an extra module to make a warp drive every day. I don't do that, by the way. This is here by way of example. And I've got these 2 here to help maintain the extra things we need to make territory scanners every day. Again, I don't do that anymore. That's simply there by way of example. Right, let's get to the giveaway. I have a Discord server now. That's where I'm going to be uploading all of the flowcharts. And so I've made a channel there called the giveaway competition channel. And all you have to do to enter is join the Discord and leave a comment in that channel. And it doesn't matter how many times you comment, you can only enter once. But I will get the names of every user that commented and then do a random draw to see who wins the Armored Bee, which has now been renamed to What is Love, so that PvPers learn to, baby, don't hurt me no more. Well, I hope this has been useful for you. I'm sorry it took so long, and I'm sorry I basically went through it all so quickly. There's just so much to cover. I didn't want the video to take too long. I hope that it's been useful to you, that you've been able to gain some valuable information from it. I hope that you meet with success as you try to build your own personal industries as well. Thank you for watching. If you've liked the video, please don't forget to like and perhaps to subscribe to the YouTube channel, or even follow me on Twitch. Until the next time, thanks for watching and bye for now.